Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of My Gaming. My chair is squeaking. I'm using a microphone. So if you hear the creaking really loud, I apologize for that. But as I said here, this is My Gaming episode 2. Last week, we did our first ever My Gaming episode with 2K's Asim Tanvir. And that was just basically a bit of a nostalgia trip to list, obviously, your favorite games of all time and other questions and things like that. So we thought we'd bring it back due to popular demand. And number 2, episode 2, we are going to be questioning our co-host himself, Mr. Alex Sylvester. How you doing, Alex?
What's up, man? What's good?
We're going to blitz through this because obviously we've got loads to record tonight and things. But you would have thought that me and you would have been episode 1 and 2, right? For this new show.
Yeah. It would have been good, but
2K came calling and we were like,
2K
yeah, we'll take you.
makes a lot more sense.
Definitely. Okay, so the way this show's going to run is I'm going to ask you questions. So we're going to get your top 5 games of all time, can be any format. And then in between after we get past 5 and 4, I'll ask you a question, then we'll get 3 and 2. I'll ask you a different question, then we'll get to your number 1. All good?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, so in your top 5, what is your 5th best game of all time?
5th best game of all time would be Mario 64. Classic.
And why is that?
Classic. Because it is probably one of the best, most innovative games when it came to 3D platforming. I mean, it pretty much just set the bar, didn't it? I mean, that then created the 3D platform, and it took Nintendo to make it work. Where others have tried, with things like games like Croc and Spyro, which were all good, but they just didn't really have that fluidity that Mario had. And the fact is that they actually brought him from a 2D world into a breathing. It was living and breathing. You actually see the character breathe for the first time. Was absolutely insane. And then the ringtone comes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the wife, isn't it? I'm just going silent now. Forgot about that. She should know, man. It's 9:30 recording.
Time. Yeah. So it's just been a phenomenal game. I remember that game coming out. In fact, I remember reading all the Nintendo magazines right before it came out, before the launch, and just trying to get any ounce of information about the game. And when it finally was released, or there's a demo unit at Toys R Us in town. That was amazing. So that was my number 5.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I remember that. It was, what was it? It was Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. It was Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation, and it was Knights 99 for the Dreamcast. Do you remember Knights 99?
Knights wasn't too bad, actually. It was all right, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And Crash was a cheeky one. It was like a 2.5D cheeky game, but they pitched it as 3D, Spyro was that first proper one on PlayStation. Okay, so Super Mario 64. What is your number 4 game of all time?
My number 4 game of all time would be Metal Gear Solid 1 Yeah.
I thought it would be higher, but okay, that makes sense. As long as it's in the top 5, that's the main thing.
It's in the top 5. Metal Gear Solid 1 was obviously one of the most. It was the pinnacle of narrative storytelling in games, especially back then when the whole world shut down just to play Metal Gear Solid. It was an amazing game. And again, the same thing with Mario 64. Any crumb of information, any demo that leaked out, because we had them on CDs back then, didn't it, on the official PlayStation. So
that's the one.
And you get to play like a little snippet of it. But yeah, man, sneaking around left, right, and center, it was just like a completely new experience. Even though it was released on the SNES previously, it was never like this. And I guess they kind of did what Nintendo did with Mario. They took it from a budgie top-down 2D level and just brought it to life. And it is pretty much set the bar for pretty much all strong story narrative-driven games.
What a game.
Yeah, on the platform, if not on all platforms. In fact, it's been on all platforms now, isn't it?
So, not the Xbox, around. Not on Xbox. It hasn't come to Xbox. Never been on Xbox. It wasn't in the HD collection.
Sorry.
The original one hasn't. How dare they touch that one?
Yeah. Maybe one day. But yeah, awesome game. It was just a shame about its sequel, but anyway, we don't need to get into that right now.
I love the sequel, mate. I don't know what you're about. I know what you mean with the ride and stuff, but it's still a great game nonetheless. Okay, so we've got your number 5 and number 4. Let's move on to something a little bit different before we get to your top 3. So what's been your biggest surprise? So a game you weren't expecting to be great and you were just dumbfounded by it, or something that you just didn't think of, whacked it on and you were pleasantly surprised. What has been your big surprise in terms of it can be story, it can be narrative, it could be everything?
There's so many, but I'll just pick two. One from the VR realm, which would be super hot. Yeah, that game is absolutely amazing. Putting on that, the PSVR for the first time, playing this game, which is pretty much just basic as hell, on the surface, but then it just unravels into one of the most dynamic games that you'll ever play. Just from the gunplay to the knife play to the way they've redefined bullet time, it's sick, absolutely amazing. So
I remember you. I was like, try this one, and then like 4 hours later, you came out of it, and this was at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave
with JD.
With JD, all I needed was like a that trackpad, that omnidirectional trackpad that they had in Ready Player One. You know what I mean? And I would have just lived there, man. I mean, the game's absolutely amazing.
That's a good choice.
And it's in my tops. But anyway, next to that, another surpriser was the current generation now, which would be Astro's Playroom. Didn't really think it was going to be that great of a game. I mean, obviously we played the first one on the VR, and that was to me that defined what platforms for VR should actually be like. But I had no idea what was in store for everybody who's managed to get their hands on this system here. It's an awesome game. It's absolutely phenomenal.
It's it gives you your first. They were smart because you will always remember the first time you felt the dual sense with Astro. Astro is what you're going to think about. It was very smart by them, because they could have just done like a system demo, but they didn't. It was Astro auto downloads as soon as you connect to the internet, and that is your demo for the controller. And the nostalgia, dude. The nostalgia in that game.
And the quality. I mean, there's a great tech demo, a great showcase of what's to come, what's in store. It was in 4K glory. It kind of did what Mario did, what Nintendo did for the the 3D stick that they had, because that was the first time that.
Yeah. Back. Yep.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can. Cut off. Astro's in the mics messing around.
Astro's in the mics. So it kind of did what Nintendo did for Mario 64 when they unveiled the actual controller and how to use it. You had Mario pretty much to guide you through this new world of not motion sensors, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, very smart.
Analog control. But yeah, again, Astro.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move into number 3. So we're in the top 3. It's the final countdown. What is your third best game of all time?
All right then. Okay. We've done this before, but I think this is like more for like experience wise. Like
but that's what gaming is. Gaming can be something, anything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's dynamic. It ever changes. But I think my next game is going to be another VR game, not the ones that I mentioned, but it would be Batman VR. Batman VR. Oh my gosh! Set in the Arkham universe, that game was just another level. I mean, there's never been a situation where you're literally Batman. You're Batman. You're Bruce Wayne. You're child Bruce Wayne. You get to run around in the mansion. You get to actually do real detective work. You get to see some good action as well. Not to mention the key characters who make an appearance for one of the most compelling stories. I mean, even though it's like a short game, it was something.
It's the experience, like you said. You know what I mean? It was you mentioned Super Mario 64. That was the generation into 3D. Batman was the Mario 64 of VR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still remember your reaction when I said to you, "Look down." And I was like, reach for your belt, and then you pulled a batarang out, and you just that was it. You were just like, throwing them everywhere. You were like,
what? You know what I mean? And like it's experiences like that which just have me like really psyched and pumped for what's going to be coming for the sequel. The PSVR 2, and we've actually got resistive triggers. So imagine actually going down to pull your batarang and actually feeling it, letting it go, fling it around. That's just going to be an awesome experience. So,
and again, another great game that you finished in one go. You know what I mean? and then, but it was that good that I had obviously played it, and then I was like, Alex, you need to play it, and you brought your brother around, and I said to your brother, I'm sorry, dude, but for 3 hours you're going to have to leave. I don't want you to see what Alex is doing. You know what I mean? And then he went off and he was chatting to my wife in the kitchen and stuff and just chilling.
Yeah.
And you were playing Batman VR. And then it wasn't until about halfway through I thought, actually, I can just turn the TV off because it doesn't affect you, right?
The TV off. I mean, I'm sure everybody listened to it. Well, you just turn the TV off.
Okay.
But it was still No, hold on, you couldn't tell it because you had to be there to guide me to see what's actually happening. So yeah.
I barely had to guide
yeah.
you, man. You were doing it.
Bad though, dude.
I just had to. The only thing I think I remember I had to tell you was stop throwing batarangs and carry on with the game.
Yeah, they could have just made that like a side game easily, man.
That's
Easily.
it.
Yeah,
Okay, so the game that was so close and then it just missed out on the number one spot.
Tekken 5, for obvious reasons. It's like one of the greatest fighting games of all time, and it's
I love how you said one of, because all the other ones are Tekken games still.
they're all exactly. They're all Tekken games. I don't care. Spoiler alert. But yeah, that game was absolutely amazing. I think that was the one time that they actually got all the mechanics perfect,
Balancing
from one
everything.
Yeah, the balance, and the timing, the frames between the characters, with the certain moves, it was just perfectly balanced. And I love the engine that they had there. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Like, obviously, it's an in-house engine, but even though Tekken 7 is still, it's even more polished. But I don't know, Tekken 5 just seemed more authentic. And obviously, when they had Dark Resurrection as well, which just kind of just amped the game even further,
speeded it up. Yeah.
It just, it just took it to another level. But ultimately, if you had to pick one, it would be Tekken 5, because that was the point that it was kind of like the fifth film in a lot of film series, isn't it? Like Fast and Furious 5, when that happened, it actually made the series better. The same thing with Mission Impossible, you know what I mean? So I think this was definitely the pinnacle, the pivotal moment for the franchise, which just made the game into what it was, and which still is. And the foundations have just been built upon continuously. And I just can't wait till the Tekken 8 or Tekken as a Service comes out, so we can actually finally get Sonny's ass kicked live on stream. So if you do want to see that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, place your bets.
So just to give you a heads up, while you were talking, I was having a look. So Tekken 5 was one of the last ones to run off the System 256 coin-op, which is what they use in the arcade engines.
Okay.
So it was running with that mixed with Unreal Engine at the time. And then obviously, as they've moved to Tekken 6 and 7, it came pure Unreal by that point. So, but
and it had that great arcadey feel. You know what I mean? It's like we don't really find too many games like that at the moment, anyway. Everything's
so before we get to the number one, let's go. We've talked about surprises. What's been your biggest disappointment? So a game that you were hyped about, or a game, as you mentioned before, you were monitoring closely, reading, and then when you played it, it just did not live up to the hype.
There's been a few. Yeah, there's been a few. I think Metal Gear Solid 2 was obviously one of them. Even though it's arguably one of the worst games in the series.
It's Raiden. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's just Raiden. I mean, they just took the mick, and like that's a good thing. That's why I gotta respect like games like Last of Us, because even though they do a switch, they justify it better, and I guess it was polarizing as well.
I think it was more of a piss take, is the fact that Snake is on the rig with you and he's running up. You're like, fucking let me
yeah. It's like, what? Yeah, so I just couldn't be bothered. I was just like, yeah. So that was one of them. Another one is Turok 64, which came out way back when. That was another game that I was following, for just as a great shooter. You know what I mean? You're going around shooting dinosaurs in this crazy jungle setting, and just playing it just didn't really deliver. I was thinking, this really was too soon.
Was that the one with like the 2-inch field of view and it was all masquaded by fog and everything?
It was just fog. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning in autumn, always. You know what I mean? But
the Silent Hill trick.
So yeah, exactly. Render. So those are a couple. There's a loads of them, but those are
okay. So before we get into the big one, just a reminder of the rundown. Number 5, Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. Number 4 was Metal Gear Solid 1, which launched on the PlayStation 1. Number 3 was Astros. Am I right? No, it was VR. Yeah. It was VR, sorry. It was Batman VR, sorry. Yeah. Great game. And then obviously number 2 was, I've already forgotten.
Tekken 5.
Tekken 5.
There's
too many numbers. There's too many numbers, isn't it?
Yeah. So that you just can't remember all of it now.
So what is your number 1 game of all time?
My number 1 game right here, right now, of all time is Metal Gear Solid 3, of which I played on the Nintendo 3DS I just wanted to just give it a go and just thought, okay, let's, all the other games I've been playing was like Mario and all these safe kiddie type of games, but this was Metal Gear Solid, okay, a
Mm.
nice. They've transitioned it over to a 3DS handheld. How's this going to work? And they're actually going to put it into 3D.
Mm.
There's actually Metal Gear Solid 3D, and it worked. You had the depth of field. You could adjust. With the 3D dial. But yeah, the technical side aside, the game itself was just phenomenal. I mean, it just reminded me of that magical feeling you had when you played the first game. And that knowing that you're going into I don't know, like a place of wonder. You have no idea what to expect. I mean, you've seen the previous games. One was actually amazing. Two was like the Die Hard 2 of the series, but three was like the Die Hard with a vengeance. And they just took it way back. They brought it back to the origins. With the point where Snake is literally acting like a snake and eating snakes. Just to survive. He's learning how to camouflage. He's understanding the just I guess the ambience is just weird. It was a completely new experience that the quieter the game was the most powerful, and especially when you're versing that one boss. Remind me, what's his name? The sniper in the trees. The end. Yeah. I mean, that was just an awesome experience. I mean, kind of on party when Psycho Mantis is like, reading your memory card, seeing what games or how crap you've been playing. That was um, another great use from Kojima. Using the actual technology around there to enhance the game, which I wish a lot more games did. Maybe there are a few games out there that that try and do it, but yeah, the whole story with Big Boss and it's just a moral dilemma that they have without spoiling it for anybody who should have played it already. It's one of the most compelling stories in video games that for a long time, and I still put it above. Well, there's countless games that I'll put it above, but I just still think that I don't know. I think they just nailed it. They nailed the story. They nailed the pacing. And even though it's like a PlayStation 3 game, right? It was still,
PS2.
showing how
PS2.
PS2. Was it PS2?
And it
Oh my
came out at
God.
the end of the
Oh
PS2
yeah,
year.
yeah, of course, yeah, because
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
PS2.
And then
Yeah, so
they
even that.
used the engine from Snake Eater to demo what the PS4 was going to be like. The
Yeah,
PS3, sorry, was going to be like for Metal Gear,
yeah,
which was pretty cool. But yeah, PS2
yeah.
that game was running on. You know what I
PS2.
mean?
PS2, and like, yeah, and even to this day, I mean, fair enough, you got graphics, you got, performance, you can, it goes up with time, but in terms of storytelling, that was Kojima at his best. That was his thriller. It was a Michael Jackson album. Yeah, so that's my number one.
Nice, nice.
Not
What
to
a
say that all the
choice.
rest of the games that I would have chosen in my top 10, don't deserve it, but Last of Us would have been an honorable mention. Last of Us 2. Um, the only reason why I haven't actually put it in there just yet because I'm still replaying the second time over and I'm just discovering it. So I'm not gonna, and I've told you before, I'm not gonna give it an official rating until.
There you go, mate. There you go. But listen, it's
So,
funny that Asim had Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3, and you've got Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3. I have a funny feeling that Metal Gear is going to be in a lot of people's list as we go through each week on this show,
yeah,
which will be
yeah, yeah.
amazing. Okay, so before we go, just two more questions. What game at the time had from a visual standpoint was your biggest wow, because obviously if you were to say what's the best graphics now, you would say something like Demon Souls or something like that
Oh, at
because
the
we're on this
time,
generation, but at that
yeah,
time you sat down. I mean, Demon Souls did wonders to you when you saw it, as did obviously games from back in the day as well. So what game visually stood out? It can be The Last of
yeah.
Us 2 running on a Jaguar, it can be Demon Souls with the ray tracing upon ray tracing, it can be anything.
You've picked two. I mean, the Last of Us, Last of Us 2 is definitely up there. In terms of visually, it looks great. Obviously they've got the skin textures and just the general animations, right? But it's the way they use all that technology to convey emotion, which is not. I mean, a lot of people attempt it, but they did it very well. You can tell that they really worked on it, and combined with the story as well, it was just on point. You know what I mean? It was just like, this is why it's now being turned into a TV show. And that's the one thing when I was playing it, I was thinking this will be a great show. I'm glad that somebody listened to me. So
That's
to be
it.
first bringing investors. But yeah, that game is a definite. If we go back a little bit for the GameCube, would have been Resident Evil the Umbrella Chronicles. I think it was the first one.
The one on the
No,
train.
yes, was the train? Yeah, the one on the train.
Zero.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Zero.
Zero.
Oh
Even I
my
remember how
gosh,
good that looked.
that looked amazing.
Yeah.
Especially for that tech, that was absolutely on point. Um, and even way back before then, I mean, if you wanted to show some age on the SNES, Donkey Kong Country,
That
when
looked
that
good.
was
That
first
looked good.
released, yeah, that was Rare bringing 3D capabilities into a 2D platform setting, and that pretty much just spurred, well, every single 2D/3D platformer that we have today. So, yeah, those would be the three that I'd mention. Not to say there's not many. There's not others. There's plenty of
Nah, that's it.
them.
That's good answers, man. I think a lot of people will agree with you if they have been gaming as long as we have. You know what I mean? But final question, and this is the one I really want to know. So, what is the best fighter that isn't Tekken for you?
Is there?
You know what I mean? So, okay, let's say so you got all your Tekkens,
Yeah.
and then
All
there's
right.
the drop, and then there's what's that
Yeah.
fighting game
Oh,
that's
yeah. I mean, there's a
non-Tekken?
massive drop.
Singular
I mean,
game, not a franchise, singular entry of that franchise.
a singular game and that franchise would have to be Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11.
The
Yeah,
new
that
one.
game is yeah. The latest one is the best Mortal Kombat game like ever. It's just got a perfect combination of everything they've done in the past. And they've updated it. They've updated the timing, the cadence. It's just all polished and tweaked to the point where they don't really have to make another Mortal Kombat. They could have just kept updating it, but obviously they have to, and it makes more money. But the fact is that they've had like a plethora of different characters as well. Like who they had in there, like Terminator. They've had Joker in there. There's so many different characters.
So many.
But anyway, and the fact is that they've actually made them work well. Obviously, learning tricks from Injustice and Injustice 2. They've managed to bring, characters that we've known and loved or even hated and brought them into a fighting arena, which is just so well balanced, where you could actually have a fight between two random characters, actually believe that could actually happen in that universe, So, but yeah, so I would say Mortal Kombat 11 without a doubt, and the story is not too bad as well. It's up there. I mean, they've been working on their narratives for a while, isn't it? From Mortal
Definitely.
Kombat.
Mortal Kombat Injustice, Mortal Kombat
Yeah.
Injustice. So yeah, we'll see if they go to Injustice 3, which
They
is the
have to.
rumor,
They might as
or
well.
if it's going to be Mortal Kombat 12. We'll see what happens on that one. But they have finished all DLC for 11 now, so they are working on something new. So we will see. But Alex, thank you very much for giving us and sharing your answers with us, and for the listeners as well. Again, this is just a nostalgia trip listening to these games, and exciting times on who we've got coming on the show soon. But with that being said, Alex, obviously we're going to go off now. We're going to record an episode of the latest PS5. But listeners, again, if you haven't played any of these games, if you've got a PSVR headset, Batman VR is definitely the highlight. You need to go and play that game. Absolutely
super hot, hot as well. Get super hot on it. Yeah.
So good. It's so good. But anyway, that was My Gaming episode 2 with Alex Sylvester. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the main show.
Peace.